Welcome to Moving Conversations, a podcast for movement professionals by movement professionals. If you coach, train, or teach movement, Pilates, or fitness, then this podcast is for you. With more than 60 years of experience in fitness and Pilates, your hosts, Brian Ritchie and Nora St. John, explore the science of human movement, diving deep into the facts, myths, and common misconceptions, hoping to spark thought and conversation about how we view fitness and movement. Now, let's jump into Moving Conversations. And welcome back to Moving Conversations. I'm Brian Ritchie. Joining me as always is Nora St. John. Morning, Nora. How you doing?
Quite well, Brian. It's a beautiful day out here. I was out in my yard. I know. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit of a birder. I know that's a total nerd thing. I have my nerd outfit on today. And it's nice. There's this app called Merlin. I'm promoting another app here, which is basically a bird identification app, and it's great because you just push like the record button, and it records all the bird song around you and tells you everything that's on there. It's very cool.
Leah,
so anyway, I was doing that.
Loves that one as well. Yep, my wife. The other day, I forget where we were. I think it was on our trip to Chicago. So we were in a different city, and she heard this, and she just recorded it, and then looked it up and said, "Oh, that's such and so." I'm like, first of all, I didn't know she was using an app, and I'm thinking, how did you know by
How
hearing
did you become a birder?
bird?
Yes.
And she said, "Oh no, it's an app." And I said, "Of course it is. Of course there's an app that records a bird chirping, and it's like, oh, it's this, that." And I'm thinking, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. I'm heading for I'm going to do an African safari next year. So I just got like this book called Birds of Greater South Africa. It's got like 1,100 birds in it. And one of the things about safaris is you can't take very much luggage because you're on these tiny planes and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking, okay, this book, I have to memorize this book before I go because it's too heavy. Like clearly this 2-pound book is not going to be a priority when I can only carry, 22 pounds. So anyway.
Wow. Yeah. Good luck on that. That'll be your studying for the next year.
Exactly. Anyway,
well, we're in the middle of a heat bomb here. So it's,
you guys are just hunkering down.
We're cooking. It's supposed to be for everyone listening. We're actually recording this on July 3rd. So if you're in America, happy 4th of July. Yes. But it is so hot. We're supposed to go to a baseball game tonight. And my whole family basically went, "No, we're good. We're good. We'll stay home. We're fine. We don't need to see fireworks. No, this is fine." It's like, it is going to be over 112 degrees, they're estimating, with a very high humidity. So it's just no, we'll stay in the air conditioning. We'll hunker down this weekend, do things around the house because it's supposed to be really nasty.
Yeah, you'll go inside. We'll stay inside. Yeah. Inside is good. Inside is good. AC is lovely. Dang.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Well, before we get started, we've got an interesting topic for you today. We're sort of going back a little bit to what we talked about probably 5-6 weeks ago, and then we talked about it with Troy last week. So we're going to be covering a little bit on what it means to be an influencer. But before we do that, do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. If you want to reach out to us, you can do it through email, movingconvos@gmail.com, or you can always do it through Instagram. Moving Convos is our handle, and you can see all of our stuff there. Check us out on YouTube as well under my name, Brian Ritchie. You can see us in living color, and those are the easiest ways to get in touch with us. So what does it take to be an influencer? We sort of joked about this, 5 weeks ago or whatever it was. And it was sort of like, are we an educator? Are we an influencer? What does it mean to be either? And it was very interesting that we got more comments, both positive and negatives on this. And especially from the Pilates community, saying how many of these people who are, as you said, these Pilates so quote unquote influencers who you've been in this industry, for so long, and you've never heard of any of these people. I certainly haven't. And I'm even looking at fitness influencers, and I think that I've been around the industry for the last 30 years. I know most of the people that we have seen at conferences and teach around, and a lot of them are friends, and I don't know any of these people. And so it's interesting. So we thought, well, what does it take to be an influencer? And are we influencers? So I figured, let's take it away from there.
And the place to start for me was thinking about this because I was just thinking about this topic anyway. And it's like with many things in maybe the modern era or maybe every era, this word has taken on a specific meaning, right?
Yes.
Influencer has taken on a specific meaning, meaning you have a large following on social media. That's kind of, I would say that's the generic definition of it.
Yep.
And one of the things that I broke down in my brain was what is influence? How do we
Hmm.
influence people? What does influence actually mean? And is that the way that it really happens? Is through social media? Certainly it is. I mean, certainly we've seen some of the crazy stuff that social media will promote or not promote or change or whatever. There's all kinds of crazy stuff happening there for sure. But I think that the bigger question for me is how do we, as movement professionals, influence our clients, influence our students, influence our community, and taking it from that
Hmm.
other level, because I feel like there's a lot of ways in which influence takes a lot of different forms. It doesn't just take a lot of followers on social media. And sometimes that's really the most superficial or can be one of the very superficial versions of
100%.
influence, right? Like you've got a lot of clicks, but how much influence are you actually having? Are you actually changing people's lives? Are you making people's lives better? Are you educating the next generation? Are you helping your community? Like, what does it mean to be an influencer?
And
So,
that is definitely, I thought the same thing when I like to, when it, you and I create a lot of classes. And one
yes.
of the things I was working on was some anatomy stuff. And I was saying, okay, what are the core muscles? And then I said, what are the core influencers? Other muscles that are sort of adjacent.
Hmm.
Are they considered part of the core? Are they not? Probably not by the technical sense, but they're influencers. And I thought and I just like putting the word in there because it's, influencers is something that's sort of in the nomenclature now. And it got me to thinking, okay, what is an influencer? Are we obviously have influence. I told you before we recorded, I think I told this in that last episode that we talked about this. The only people I really care about influencing really are my kids. I want to have a huge influence on their lives. And
Right.
hopefully I do. But let's face it, if you touch anybody, we work in a service industry, much like anybody who works, especially in the medical community or helps people in any way, shape, or form, even secondary, third, fourth, fifth line away from, a medical field, but are helping people get healthier, nutritionists, dietitians, massage therapists. We all do have some influence. And when we mention something to someone, they take that information in because we're coming from a place of some expertise in their eyes. So we have a lot
Right.
of responsibility with that influence. And we
Hmm.
really need to take that seriously because I don't think a lot of these people who care about clicks and care about, the likes are really caring that much about taking responsibility for what they're really teaching online and how some of that may actually cause more harm than good.
Well said. So I want to tell a little story here. When I turned, this is random, but when I turned 33 and a third, for my 33 and a third birthday, I was living in a little tiny apartment in Oakland, and I decided, or I realized that really I had probably two-thirds of my life left. I'm assuming I'm living to 100. I'm just going to assume that because why not?
Yeah.
And what I realized was I'm a teacher. Like that's what I am, apparently. That's certainly what I've been drawn to. That's what I've been called to do. That's been like my path in my life. And even at that point, I was clearly in that direction. And so I basically went out and bought a whole bunch of tea lights, candles, and I lit a candle for every teacher I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
These are all the people that have influenced me. I had 150 candles lit. It's amazing I did not burn down my little studio apartment.
I was going to say, whoa, okay.
It was a little bright in there. But it was a really interesting thing to go through because what I realized from that was several things. One, all the people that have influenced me, like that
Mhm.
was a lot of people that have had an influence on me, my family, my friends, my teachers, teachers that I liked, teachers that I didn't like, people that
Mhm.
I learned from in different ways. Again, for positive and negative influences, they've all had an influence on me and they all created who I am and created the skills that I have to offer, or certainly helped to define and generate the skills I have to offer. And that was a really important moment for me to understand how much we influence each other, and how
Mhm.
much as a teacher, the responsibility of that for me was quite, and continues to be quite profound. Just again, doing good work, good information, generosity, kindness, helping people get where they want to go. Those are all super, super important values to me as a
Mhm.
teacher.
What this sort of hit home to me when I was writing my book a few years ago. I included a couple of my professors in there,
Mhm.
and I wanted to give them credit for either a quote here or making me think a certain way, this way or that way or whatnot. And it sort of dawned on me because I tried to get in touch with one of them just because I wanted to send him a copy of the book. He had left the University of Hawaii, and I thought, I reached out on social media. And it then dawned on me, okay, he meant a lot to me. He was an important influence on me. I was just one of 10,000 students for him.
Mhm.
And that when I sort of had that thought, it's like, wow, that made me really think, okay, as a teacher, you and I teach all over the world, and we may have 100 people in a classroom. We may see them once or twice in our whole career, but something that we tell them, they may take and use it on 50 or 60 of their clients over the next 10 years or whatnot. And how many times have you heard someone come up to you and say, I saw a class you did 10 years ago, and you said this, this, and this, and it really struck home for me, and I've used it ever since. And thinking, wow,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
really have created that influence, out there. I had a client once tell me that it's sort of when she and I started talking about this, she said, "You are in my mind," she was Korean. She said, "You are in my mind the butterfly effect." And I said,
Yeah.
"Interesting." She said, "When you flap your wings, it causes change in the world. And your change spreads, and it spread through me, and I could help my clients, and everyone you teach, it spreads through them." And I always sort of had that in the back of my mind that when I'm teaching,
Yeah.
I hope that they can take something away and then help with their clients a lot more than if I just saw, the 50 people that I see on a regular basis in my studio. But to hear it from someone else really struck home to me. And I said, wow, that really made me feel good that, okay, I have made a difference, at least in her life and hopefully in other people's.
And for me, that's influence. I mean,
Yeah.
those of you who know me, I created the Balanced Body Education program, and I've taught many, many, many master instructors or educators, whatever they're called these days. And then they've taught a lot of students, and then those students have taught a lot of clients. And I don't know, 80, 100,000, something like that. There's like a lot of people out there that I have touched indirectly through writing
Mhm.
manuals, through teaching teachers, through et cetera. And that's, for me, that kind of influence. It's not like, certainly, I'm sure many people don't know my name, which is totally fine. And I certainly don't have a giant social media following because that's not what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
But I know that I've changed people's lives. I know that I have made people's careers. I've allowed people to have successful careers. I've helped people to change other people's lives so that they can move better and feel better and be more comfortable. That's genuine influence, in my
Mhm.
opinion, and it's not personal. Like, I don't care if anybody even knows my name. It's like, this is a change that we've made. Brian, all the students that you've taught at IDEA, think about all the students you've taught at IDEA
Mhm.
and all the students that they've taught. Like,
Yep.
this is influence. And this is influence of a much more, well, I don't know. I'm going to judge it a deeper, richer kind. Like,
Yes.
it's not a 30-second TikTok thing. It's not a very short little how special something is. It's a, here I am. This is what I'm doing. Let's spend some time together. Let's really work on something and
And I
develop
think
some
that's
skills.
and that's the important thing of what we do. If you think about it, we really do create through our teaching. And that's why I sort of want to
Mhm.
tell people I don't consider myself an influencer. I'm a teacher. I'm an
Right.
educator. I'm
Yeah.
here to educate and to hopefully help you take that next step. And again, ask this at every single class that I teach. The last thing I say, did I give you something today that you can use immediately tomorrow morning on a client? when
Right.
we were working together, did an aha moment happen and you said, I'm going to use that on Mrs. Smith tomorrow? And almost everybody says yes. And I say, then I did my job because I have helped them in turn help someone else that I'll never meet. And
Yeah.
hopefully that will happen throughout their career and keep
Yeah.
going on and on. And as
Yeah.
teachers,
And
I think that's the important thing.
that's influence, right? I remember
Yes.
one of my teachers early on was Alan Herdman, who was a fantastic Pilates teacher from the UK, from England. And I worked with him a long time ago. We did a couple of workshops with him, and I absolutely loved him. His energy is just one of the kindest, most generous, most perceptive people that I've ever worked with as a student. And I hadn't seen him for a long, long time, probably 10 years. And then I was at a Pilates Method Alliance conference, and I was this MAT class. And being in a room where he was teaching, it was hearing my voice in somebody else's body. And what I
Mhm.
realized was his influence on me was so profound. And unknowingly, I had no idea how much influence he'd had on me until I heard him teaching and realized, oh, that's where I got how I teach. That's how I learned to teach, was modeling after, I mean, many people, but he was certainly one of them. And that was just so interesting to
Mhm.
feel that. And he didn't know that. I'm not sure he was. I mean, I told him that after that, but he wasn't aware of that. But that's that kind of influence that we have. It's subtle and profound at the same time.
It's interesting. I've heard similar things when I've taken other people's classes and they've told me that they've taken my classes years ago and now they're teaching on a national level. And I'll be sitting in the back of the room and they'll say something. I'm thinking, wow, that sounds familiar. That sounds really familiar. And I'll realize, oh, yeah, they either took that information that I gave them and expounded on it or interpreted it in a certain way and are now teaching it in a slightly different way or however it's done. And I don't feel as though I own any of the information that I have. I don't feel
Right.
any
Yeah,
of
I'm a
that.
channel. I'm a channel.
Exactly. I've heard some
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, you took that from so and so." It's like, "No, I learned it, and I've learned it from all of these sources." When I was writing my book, I
Yeah.
actually was trying to think of how many people taught me enough so that I could write this,
Yeah.
and I couldn't begin to tell you who taught me what, when, where, what, who
No.
knows? But
Right.
I am now I consider myself the funnel of all this information coming from all of these other sources now, and I'm now funneling that out to the people in the class. Now, down the road, they're gonna funnel that along with all of their other teachers, influences, and it's going to continue that process, and it's going to continue down the chain, which I think is fantastic and very important. Because if not, I mean, think of how we learn. If your teacher didn't teach you and you're a teacher, how would you be able to teach the next generation? So that's literally how this really goes.
It's how life is actually passed on
Yeah,
forever, right? Forever, forever and ever and ever. We tell stories, and then those stories. I mean, think about how many stories we tell or history that we learned that's from 2,000 years ago. I mean, think about the
right.
Bible, right? This is just a story that was told a long time ago that keeps getting told. And
Mhm.
that's how so much information gets moved forward. One other thing that I want to say is because, both of us have taught on a national level, international level. But if you were interested in being an influence, anybody out there who's a teacher of any kind, a couple of things to think about, like starting with influencing your clients, right? That's where we
Yes.
started our influence. You and I both worked in the trenches for a long time before we were doing any educating or anything else. And
Yep.
one of the things that, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've certainly noticed this every now and then. I am working with a client and they come in and they're a little cranky. They're just a prickly, challenging personality for whatever reason. And, I don't know their story yet, but there's a little
Uh-huh.
something going on there. And then you realize and you hear about and you learn their story, because that's what happens is you start to teach somebody, you start to learn more of their story. And after a little while, you realize they've mellowed out, they've relaxed,
Hmm.
they're calmer, their nervous system is a little bit more regulated. And then then sometimes you start to hear about good things happening in their life. And you're thinking, okay,
Hmm.
not that I am the whole reason for this, but certainly there's some role that we play in influencing our clients to take better care of themselves, to be more conscious with their family, to be kinder to themselves. There's a lot of positive things that we provide for them that then can influence their family, their community, and out from there. So again, it's not just influencing our students, it's also influencing our students as educators, but it's also influencing our clients and helping their life become better. And that has a positive influence all the way around.
Yeah. How many times have you heard from a student or someone who's you're working with say, "Oh yeah, you taught me this and I taught it to my sister."
Right.
And now her her knee's not bothering her nearly as much anymore. Or I saw she was doing this wrong. Or I saw, I was talking with my son and he was doing, this sort of thing. And I said, "Have you ever thought of this?" And now he's doing that and it's helping that. Those stories are
Yeah.
countless. And we
Yeah.
hear them all the time. And that's really the kind of influence that I feel is much stronger because let me ask you this. I don't know if you've scrolled any social media today. I probably have a little bit. I think everybody does when they first wake up or whatever, bathroom time, whatever it is. I don't remember what I saw. I don't
No.
remember, even if I
Mm-mm.
liked something, I don't always remember it for very long.
Mm-mm. No.
Occasionally, I'll see something and be like, "Ooh, that's interesting. That's really interesting."
Right.
And it'll
Right.
stick with me. And I'll
Yep.
start playing with it in my own head, and then maybe on the floor, or I'll grab a bat or whatever it is, I'll play with it a little bit. Ooh, and I may modify it, I may change it or whatever, but that's rare.
Yeah.
It's
Super
really
rare.
rare. But the influence we have on a daily basis over people, it's because we're seeing them on a regular basis that our influence sort of is longer lasting and really
Well, and
can embed in them
it's deeper. I mean, you spend an hour with them, or
deeper.
you
Yeah.
spend 50 minutes with them, and then you spend it with them twice a week. I mean, there are some clients, um, when I was working in my studio and both the studios that I worked at, I was a teacher for 16 years in a studio, and there's clients that I'd known for 16 years. I knew
Yeah.
them longer than I knew my husband. I knew them longer than a whole lot of things in my life, right? And I knew more about them than I did about, some of my friends in a way,
Yep.
just because you spend so much time together and you really do, become a relationship. And that's where
Yeah.
influence really is the strongest. I mean, think about the relationships in your life that mean the most to you. They've had an influence on you. Think of whether it's a parent or it's a sibling or it's a teacher, or
Mhm.
maybe it's your grandmother or your aunt or something, or a best friend. Like how much have they influenced you? Think about how much those relationships really, that's what makes a difference. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what changes you.
Yeah. No question. No question.
Yeah. And one other thing that I do think about a lot, as do you, is all of those influences that have come in through us, and then how do we pass those on? So I feel like
Mhm.
as an educator, as opposed to a teacher of clients, there's similar roles. In both situations, I'm trying to create effective communication for the person in front of me, whether it's the person or the classroom or the community, right? Whatever level I'm working at. And that's the second level for me of how you become an educator. Like if I'm thinking about
Mhm.
how do you become an educator, how you really become a teacher at a higher level, how do you articulate what you know? How do you learn to take all that funnel that you described so well and articulate it in a way that somebody can understand it and then use it? Right. I
Yeah.
feel like you and I have both spent our careers essentially doing that. Like, okay, how do I make this as understandable as possible for somebody who may not have my background, may not have my total nerdiness?
And not everybody's meant to have that stage. Just like there are things that I see on social media of these so quote unquote influencers. And I think I could never do that. I don't have that skill set. That was never a skill set that I was born with. Could I attain some
Right.
of it? Maybe some of it. Some of it is learned, no question. But some of that is natural and who they are and whatnot. They were born with certain genetics and certain capabilities and a certain outgoing personality that just captures on camera. You and I have talked. You filmed so many people for different reasons with, balanced body and whatnot. And you said, oh my gosh, this person is so dynamic when you're talking one-on-one, and then they get in front of a camera and they are dead. There is nothing there. We've had guests who are wonderful, awesome people. And then the microphone gets turned on. It's like, wow, it's not translating the same way. So not
Right.
everybody's meant to take that next level. They're great one-on-one with a client, but you put them
Absolutely.
in front of a class. I
Absolutely.
remember teaching with someone
Yeah.
like this who was great until he was in front of a group, and then it was a dud. And I'm teaching alongside
Yeah.
him, and I'm trying to get his energy up, and I'm thinking, oh, this really stinks. I could, no matter what I
This
could
is
do, I
not
could not
working.
lift this class
It's not
up.
working.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was dying
Yeah.
on the vine. And some people just don't have that. And maybe that's not what they're meant to do. And it's okay. That's fine too. It's okay to be really good at what you do and not have to be great at everything.
I've worked with a lot of educators, like all the balanced body educators over the years. And the thing that I find really interesting is there are certainly different skill sets within that group, within any group, right, of people. But so within that group, there's a different skill sets. Some of them are very entrepreneurial, have a whole lot of charisma, right? Just basic charisma, which some people have and some people don't have as much. And some people can kind of learn to have, and some really just not their skill. I mean, it's just not their skill. And watching them, it's always been interesting because I have those clients or those teachers who have this incredible, just like spark and drama and really draw people in. I have other teachers who don't have that skill. And it's funny because some of my quietest, least apparently charismatic teachers, some of them have been phenomenally successful.
Mhm.
And it's because charisma is not the whole game,
Yes.
right? A lot of it is trust. A lot of it is communicating successfully. A lot of it is sincerity and integrity. And
Mhm.
some of my teachers who, again, don't have that much charisma are very successful, not because they're like, I'm going to entertain you, but because they create an atmosphere of calmness and learning and integrity and trust that allows the students to really take in the information successfully. And so it's been really interesting to watch the different skill sets that all can work
Mhm.
as an educator. And they may not be somebody that would ever work on a national stage like a POT or a IDEA or something like that, simply because that is a performance situation. When you've got
Yep.
50 to 100 strangers in front of you, you kind of have to bring it a little bit because otherwise you're going to lose them. You got to really project. And not everybody has that ability. But if you're teaching 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 students in your studio week after week, you have that opportunity to really build those relationships and have a tremendous influence on them. So I just want to bring that out too, because there's so many different ways that influence happens. It doesn't always happen through all the lights and the bells and the whistles of social media, for example.
Yeah. When you were saying that, it reminded me, her name was Susie. She was one of my first bosses in the fitness world. And one of our conversations, she said, you know what? Some of the best people who have ever worked for me are not the smartest. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that are just brilliant can't assimilate all their knowledge to their clients.
Exactly.
And other people, she said, are dumb as a rock, but they have so much charisma that they just attract these clients, and you're watching them do the same workout every single time. And you're thinking they're not getting anything out of it, but this person has all the charisma in the world and will get clients that way.
Right.
So everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And you're
Yep.
right. When you're on a national stage or an international stage, you've got to bring it. You've got to be
Yeah.
entertaining. You've got to have the
Yeah.
knowledge. You've got to have a voice. You've got to have something to say. You've got to have a reason that they're there and
Yes.
something that they're going to take home and want to come back to see you again. I think that's the whole package. And a number of the people that we know have that. And it's something they've developed over time. But not everybody does. And it's okay. It's okay to be a little bit smaller and maybe just teaching in your studio or teaching to, a few teachers We have a number of educators with Balanced Body who teach out of their studios, and they teach other teachers, people who want to be Pilates teachers, and they may see only 3 or 4 people at a time, or 5, or whatever it is. And that's perfect for them. They feel comfortable with that number. They can really make a difference to those people and have a more one-on-one experience. And I think knowing your market and knowing where you're comfortable is a huge asset to your future. If you know that that's where you're comfortable, stick with it. You don't need to necessarily be in front of 100 people.
Right.
If that's not your comfort
Exactly.
zone, don't do it.
Yeah, and it's also something that gets lost a lot, honestly. And I think you and I both talked about this, and certainly, I'm sure with some of the comments you got from our last comment that this was clear. One of the things that I think both Brian and I are really deeply rooted in is understanding how hard it is to learn what we do. Right? To really understand the body, to be able to identify imbalances, to be able to correct them, to be able to work with whatever clients in front of you, whatever issue they've got. That just, it just is it's a process, and it is a long process. It's not easy. It doesn't take 5 minutes. It is a significant investment in time and energy. And especially to get good at it. Again, you can learn how to teach the choreography within a year or two. You can learn how to be a good personal trainer fairly quickly, at least be able to get the exercises into that other body in front of you and tell them what to do. And that's great. That's a great basic level of skill that's required. But to really get to that next level where you can look at a body and you can analyze it, you can understand it, and then you can articulate that, and then you can articulate that to teachers, that just takes time. And one of the things, I think we talked a little about this last time, but one of the things I find is challenging in the modern age is everybody thinks they can get anything instantaneously. Like I really do think our phones have trained us to feel like that dopamine hit of like, oh, look, there's somebody on there who I got a hit, or whatever the dopamine hit is that you get from the phone, or the entertainment hit, or the little tiny piece of knowledge hit is like instantaneous. And that's how the world works. In most industries, certainly in ours, that's not how it works. You can't learn something in 30 seconds.
And even if you did,
time.
Yeah, you can't articulate it in a way that is going to be understood by everybody. I think you're right. And I think a lot of younger people see other young people become influencers. And let's face it, the majority, we've been all over the world. I've seen many, many, many different social media, apps and accounts and things. Most of the more famous ones are beautiful people. Yeah. They have perfect bodies. Yeah. They are good movers by nature. And they were given a genetics that not everybody else has. And what's coming out of their mouth is secondary to how they look for some of them. Not everybody, but for a lot of them. You're attracted to what you see first. That's a natural thing that everybody does.
That's what humans are.
Everybody looks.
Humans are wired.
Exactly. You see something, it's an attraction. And then you may listen. But let's face it, a lot of times when you dig deeper, you really don't see that there's a whole lot there. And it takes time to develop the skill set. It takes time to develop that knowledge base that you're going to build upon. And if it's just fluff and that's what you're looking for and that's what you want and that's what you want to project, that's fine. There's a million of them out there. And if you have the perfect genetics and are gorgeous and things, you're probably going to find a following. But if you're like most people are and are average, you got to have something to say. You've got to be able to keep them beyond that first few seconds, and you've got to be able to keep them 30 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. You've got to have the knowledge to back it up and not just be the pretty face.
And one of the things I was thinking was, time in the saddle, basically, was what I was thinking, because so much of, so much of social media makes whatever that person is doing look like the most amazing that's ever happened to anybody ever. Because what do people post? People don't post the 1200th time they've seen Alice, who never listens to anything they say and basically fights everything they want them to do, right? Like they don't see essentially the daily grind. And I think a lot of people these days don't think they ever have to have a daily grind, which is, I don't know, I grew up in a different era. So I felt like
Mhm.
I was just going to have to work hard my whole life, and that was how I was going to have to be. And I think there's something to really be said for those people who've just put the time in the trenches with Alice every Monday and Thursday, who drives you
Yeah.
crazy. Or, George, who makes progress, but then, he has another injury because he always does a little too much, and he's a little too aggressive in his, trying to do a tough mutter at 43. And you've always got to keep putting it back together. That's the work. The work isn't glamorous. It's
No.
rewarding. It's incredibly satisfying. It's not glamorous. It's just work, and it's relationship, and it's personality, and it's enthusiasm, and it's inspiration, and it's all those things. And that's
Yeah.
that's the hard work of it. Again, not necessarily showing up on Instagram for a million hits, but what do you do every day in the studio,
Yeah.
every hour with every client?
And I think as a teacher, as an educator, or as an influencer, I think your motivation has a lot to do with this.
Absolutely.
What is your motivation?
Yep.
Is it to be famous? There are some people who that's all they want to be. They want to be famous.
Yep.
Okay, that's an okay motivation. That's an okay dream of yours. I have no problem with that. But understand that it's going to take a lot more work, time, and effort than people think it's going to. I mean, I think of some of these reels that I watch and the social media stuff, and you and I you've done a lot more filming than I have, but we've done a lot, especially in this day and age. We know how much time is spent on things like proper sound, proper lighting, proper cameras, all of this stuff. What they're putting into this requires a lot of work. So when you see a 15 to 30-second clip, it may have taken them all day to film, or multiple hours to film this one little portion. And you don't know what their back channels are like and how much time they spend editing and all of this sort of thing. So if you think all you need to do is put the camera in front of you, hit one button, and la-di-da-di-da, and hit the button again, and I'm going to post it and become world famous, it might happen. But chances are those who are at that next level of fame put in a lot more time and effort that you never see. You don't see that part of it.
Yeah.
And again, if
absolutely.
your motivation is to be famous, understand that it's probably going to require a lot more than you think it is. And for you and I think we're very comfortable with what our motivation was to reach out and touch people, was to reach out and really help that next generation of teacher be able to go out and help their clients. And maybe they'll become the next generation of teacher and educator and help even more people. So, you look at coaching trees out there, people who, this one person had these coaches who went on to have all of these other famous teams. And then their players went off and became coaches that had all these others. You look at the coaching trees. Well, I look at you that way and think, how many educators did you work with? And how many of those people are now teaching other people to be educators as well? And that is phenomenal. That's really the reason I think you and I got into this.
It's the only reason I got into this. I mean, clearly, and it was funny because I never thought about being a teacher. I mean, I went to school I got a degree in biology and dance, which, makes sense, given my future. And I got out, and then I was basically working in theater and dance for a while. And then I broke my foot and ended up at St. Francis as a client because, I broke my foot. And then was there every hour of the day that I could be there, pretty much. And finally I said, you just want to work here. And the teacher there, Diana Harold, basically saw a teacher in me. I didn't see it. I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. I had no clue that this was going to be my future for the next 30 some odd years. No clue. But then, as soon as I get into it, it's like, oh, this is like super interesting. Working with people, problem solving all the time, seeing what's different about everybody. I really, I call it an awareness practice or a study in human psychology, because I loved interacting with people that way. It gave me a formal way to interact with people, where it was structured, which I think is helpful for me because I'm naturally a massive introvert. And I just really, really loved that process. I loved seeing change. I loved seeing people get something new in their bodies and then make a change and then, feel better. I just loved it. And that has drawn me forward for the ensuing 30 some odd years now, because that's the joy. The joy is seeing the change in the people that you work with, and feeling that connection and feeling that you made a difference. That's incredibly meaningful.
And I don't think when you first started off doing this, I sure as heck didn't, thought that this was what we would be doing. Not a podcast per se,
Not a
but
clue.
teaching
Right? Not a clue.
all these other teachers.
Not
And
a clue.
I tell this to my kids all the time because they're of the age now. One's about to go to college, the other is in high school. And I say, look, you're going to need to find a job someday. You're going to need to. So you need to have a career. You need to have a career path. Find what clicks. There will be something out there that clicks with you. For me, it was the human body. I didn't even know it until I got into it. I went from being a mediocre student to being top of my class. Just because, and classes that I avoided taking, suddenly I'm loving because I can put it into the human body in some way, shape, or form. Physics, I'm able to look at the body, everything differently and think, well, if you look at the rotational dynamics of it, and I can break it down in my head and say, how did I do that? I have no idea, but it just clicked. And I know there are some people that certain things, math will click, or, whatever it is for them, it just works. And if you can find that and make a career out of it, then you're on your way. And I tell this to my kids, I said, try and find what you love and try and find what you can make a career at. And hopefully once something clicks in school, you're going to know. My son is like, I had to declare a major. I'm thinking, well, I'm glad I didn't have to at 18. There's no way I would have discovered this. I was a drama major. There's no way. I was doing stand-up comedy. I was like, there's no way I would have chosen this in a million years. I was a 400 pounder. There's no way I would have chosen exercise in a million years. But down the road, I figured out and I fell into this and thought, oh my gosh, this is what I love. So, and I told my oldest, I said, look, right now, that is what your major is. You can always change it. If it doesn't click for you, find something else. Find what does. And I think that's, as teachers, as educators, and having influence over our clients, I think that's really where it comes down to, is this clicked for both of us. And as we got better at what we did and spent more time in the saddle and wanted to teach and wanted to share our knowledge, and we had a voice and we had something to say. So we took that next step and we became an educator, and we became, teaching small classes and then larger classes and then huge classes and then more international level. It's time in the saddle. It's putting in the work. It's really developing the eye. It's developing all of that knowledge background and then being able to, I hate to use the word, but regurgitate it to everybody else in a way that's digestible and a way that they can utilize it immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the task. That is the task. I have to say, one of the things that you and I both have, for better and for worse, is we really know what we have things to say. That's why we have a podcast every week for the last three years, going on 4 years. We have things to say. We're talkers, and we're thinkers, right? I mean, we just are, and we can always find something interesting, at least to us, about something. And when I talk to a lot of people who want to be educators, or not so much educators, but people who want to be presenters, who want to be famous, who want to be out there, who want to have the stage. The first thing I ask them is, what do you have to say?
Yep.
What do you have to teach? Like, what do you want to say? And the number of times that I get the blank look back, it's like if you don't have something to say that you're interested enough or passionate enough about to tell me right now, then you don't have what it takes. I don't want you to just go up there and teach what you've learned from somebody else. I mean, that's what we all do to some extent, but you have to have your voice. And that really is in my opinion, that's the presenter voice, right? If you really want to become a presenter, you really want to become internationally famous, whatever, or you want to have that drive, you have to have a voice. And you have to have a voice that is yours, ideally. Yes, of course. I'm a Pilates teacher. I teach Pilates. Brian's a Pilates and a personal trainer. He teaches the stuff he's learned from personal training. But what is your focus? What is your passion? Where do you really want? What are you most interested in? even within this industry. Do you love working with athletes? Do you love working with children? Do you love working with seniors? Do you like working with complicated physical issues like Brian and I do? Like, what's your passion? And then dive into it. Like, really get focused on it, learn as much as you can, and dive into it. And really nurture your passions, because that's what will make you a better teacher anyway. And that's what will give you the potential to take that next step and be a high level presenter. But you've got to have a voice, and you've got to figure out what that voice is for you.
Yeah, I've told you before, someone who is an educator who teaches the balanced body curriculum came up to me and said, I want to teach with you. I said, fantastic. What do you want to say? Oh, you just tell me. That's not how this works. I'm not looking for an assistant. I said, that's not how this works. I said, what do you have to say? What do you want to bring to the table? Yeah. And like you said, find out what makes you passionate. In the world of movement, fitness, Pilates, however you want to term it, is it working with people right now? The hottest, that in my opinion, the hottest thing is menopause. It is becoming huge. I mean, and it's out there. It's needed to be for the last 50 years. And now it finally is sort of starting to get some traction. If that's what you're passionate about, fantastic. There's a space for you. If it's working with athletes, there's a space for you. Whatever it is, working with cancer survivors or people who are going through breast cancer or pelvic floor disorders or whatever it is. Dancers, there's a million different ways to look at it, but find out what you're passionate about. Find out what makes you get up in the morning and makes you want to scream at the top of your lungs, this is awesome. That's what you need to do. And when you find that, then that's what you teach.
Absolutely.
And you'll find a following.
And you'll find a following. And if you are passionate enough, you will. I mean, I think Brian and I have both been through this, and I think it's interesting to bring this up this way, because I never pictured any of this happening that has happened in my life. This was not, I did not figure I would run an international Pilates teacher training program. That was not in the cards, as far as I knew. But, like I think about the first time I thought that I would do a teacher training was actually, I was doing a teacher training. I was in one with Michelle Larson, Core Dynamics in Santa Fe. After I'd been teaching for 10 years, I decided, oh, how fun, let's go do a teacher training, because there weren't any when I started. And I love Michelle and I love Santa Fe. So I went and I took the teacher training. And in the middle of the teacher training, I had one of these moments. And this is something that I have used since then. It was a moment of, I'm going to call it jealousy of a certain kind. And what I realized jealousy does for me, like if I think, oh, I really want that, I want what that person is doing, that's what motivates me. It's not that negative kind of jealousy, like I'll never have that. It's jealousy like, oh, what do they have that I'm really interested in? Oh, I want to have that too. And that, in many ways I also had to teach teachers, and I had a bunch of reasons why I needed to start a teacher training program, but that was the impetus. It was like, okay, I want this. I want to learn how to do this. I'm going to do this. And that was the motivation. Right.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
Exact same, 100%. I realized that sitting in these conferences, sitting there thinking, I should be up there.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at an IDEA conference, and they've had this class one time, and only one time that I can remember. And it was, do you want to be a presenter and how to do it?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because they made us stand up and talk and all of the, things that you wouldn't think about. And there were maybe 30, 40 people in the class. It wasn't that big, but you could see those who had it naturally and those who didn't. Yeah. And afterwards, absolutely. I was approached and they said, basically like, you got something.
You got something. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was we need to keep our eye on you. And within a year, I was teaching on that level because I realized, oh, I can do this. And it definitely was, I wanted to take that next step, but sometimes you just don't know what the step is and how to do it. So once I had that, it was sort of oh, I can do this. I'm being given permission. Got it. I did that with stand-up comedy. The first time I did it, I got up on stage. It was an open mic night. It was the first one that this comedy club ever had in Hawaii. And I went up there and I killed. I had never done it before, but I felt comfortable. I just talked and I did well. And it was like, okay. And then the next time I did it, I was hired. I went up the next time. And guess what? I bombed. I was horrific. And the next time I was terrible, but I got better. And you learn. You know, I got lucky maybe that first night. Who knows? But it set me on my path of I can do this. And I think to anybody who wants to do something like this, they need to be given that permission. But at the same time, they need to see that that's what I want. I want to be at that next level.
Yeah.
And and I'm going to tell you this, if that's not you, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know, not really, I just want to work with my clients. That's okay. That's totally cool. Awesome. Because you're still making a huge impact on their lives. You are still a gigantic influence on everybody that comes to see you regularly. They're listening to you. You're telling them things and it's landing. It's landing in a big way.
I don't want to overestimate this or undervalue this, but in my experience, the deepest connections are the personal ones. The most influence you have are the people that you actually are touching personally. And you know, if like an idea or at a POTS, I've got 60 people in front of me and I'm doing my thing. I'm touching them in various different ways. I always feel like it's a shock and I have no idea what's going in and I really don't. Because you know, you have the client in the front row who's like nodding the whole time. And then they ask a question that you realize they don't understand a thing you've just said. You've got the person in the back row who's got, you know, their arms folded and is looking totally bored. And they come up and ask you the most brilliant question ever. Right. So I really have realized like I have no idea what's hitting or landing where. I really don't. I've given up responsibility for that because I don't know. But that's not so personal. Right. And then you work with a client and you're with a client over time and you really get to see the influence that you're having, the benefits of the work that you're doing. You get to see whether it's working or not and then adjusting, right? That's really where the work happens. And that's where the deepest level of influence comes in too, I have to say. You know, that really one-on-one, mano-a-mano, mentorship, teaching, client work, all that's really where the deepest work, I think, happens.
And I think some of the best educators are the ones who are still in the trenches. Yeah. Still working with clients on a regular basis. A lot of people are, I can't wait till I don't have to work with clients anymore. And they tell me these things. I'm thinking, really? Wow. Because as soon as I stop working with clients, I know that my learning is going to not necessarily stop, but it's going to slow way down because I learn from every single client that's in front of me. I'm constantly learning. Either they come in with something new or they ask me a certain question. It's like, ooh, I hadn't thought of it from that point of view. Okay. I'm constantly learning. And for me, I'll take whatever I learn from that and I can usually use it in some other way in my teaching. So as an educator, I want to be in the trenches all the time because that's where you learn and that's where you can develop even more.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying being back in the trenches, even in a sort of mild way, because I wasn't for years. Because running Balanced Body was not, you know, I saw a few clients.
Took a little bit of time. Yeah,
took a little bit of time, but that's a sort of a different process because that process was a lot about absorbing what I knew, figuring out what I knew, and articulating what I knew. And then practicing that articulation, like, did that work? Like teaching a group of educators, did that land? Did they understand what I'm talking about? Were they able to pass that on? Like that, for me, that was the honing of the communication of it, right? Rather than just the knowledge acquisition. And now I'm kind of back to knowledge acquisition and it's super fun. I'm really enjoying that process of, well, let's try this. That didn't work. Why didn't that work? Oh, because of this. Let's try this. Right. I'm just totally enjoying that. Because again, I hadn't had that as much for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we covered a lot today. And I think when I first mentioned this as a follow-up to you, I could see the hesitation because it's like, influencer, because neither one of us You've seen how many followers we have. It's not like we have 2 million followers. We don't spend a lot of time on social media. It's not something that's important to us. My clients are important to me. My students are important to me.
Yeah.
That's really where I spend my time and my effort and my energy. It's not
Yeah.
of, getting the lighting perfect and putting on these skits and all of this. That's not me. It's more important what I teach and what I can, give to the next generation and whatnot. But I think it's important for us to have talked about this because I think a lot of people feel that maybe that's the need. I need to be an influencer. I need to do that in order to be
Right.
successful. And
Right.
I think that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. What do you want to be? What is your motivation? What gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it isn't, it isn't about clicks. It's about creating that connection. I mean, ultimately, it's about creating that connection and creating that change in the world. And if, however you do that, like enjoy that. And
Mhm.
I think it's also, there's such a feeling of inadequacy in most of the people that I talk to in this world right now. They feel like they're not good enough. Like I
Yeah.
don't have enough followers, or I'm not doing the thing, I'm not thinking I'm supposed to do, or whatever the things are. And I'm kind of like, just take a step back and do the work. Understand that yes, it's not glamorous, it's not
Mhm.
glorified, it's not getting the giant dopamine hits or whatever. But like that's what you do, and honor it, and be happy with it. Be satisfied with where you are. Know where you want to go. Move towards that if that's important to you, and just be satisfied that what you're doing is really important in the world. What we
Mhm.
do is we're rare. I always say we're like this rare beast that cares about how movement happens. There's not many people that do. There really aren't. And you have a unique skill set, and enjoy that
Mhm.
and really honor that.
Awesome. Couldn't said it better myself. Ah, well, thank you guys very much for joining us. We always love having you. Do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. It does help our algorithms, whatever the heck that means. And check us out on YouTube under my name, Brian Ritchie. Check us out on Instagram, Moving Convos. You can always email us at movingconvos@gmail.com. And until next week, for Nora St. John, I'm Brian Ritchie. We'll see you then.
Bye, guys.